Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to take a look at the Soaring Heart Videl unit after her recent Extreme Z Awakening on DBZ Dokkan Battle Global. So Videl was one of the units of the Heroine EZA and she got a pretty powerful Extreme Z Awakening overall. She got a couple changes. Her leader skill is now Int and Strength type at 90% instead of 60%. She doesn't just lower attack and defense, she now raises her attack indefinitely on her super attack. She gains 20% attack and defense per Pepe Gal's category ally on the team, plus an additional defense of 80% when performing a super attack. She also debuffs the attacked enemy by minus 20% attack and defense for 2 turns, and she recovers 20% health of damage dealt as HP. So pretty good overall. Obviously she was originally a great debuffing unit, with lowering the unit's attack and defense along with debuffing them by 20% for a turn. Now she's just kind of increasingly focused on that. So she retains her healing ability, but she gains a little bit more attack and defense. With the increased stats, she should be looking pretty solid overall. So we'll get a pretty good look at her. In terms of links, she's got a pretty interesting link set. Champion Strength, Money 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 are very uncommon links, whereas Battlefield Diva, Shattering the Limit and Cold Judgment are quite powerful links that she should be able to activate quite easily on the Pepe Gal's team. Courage, Money 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 and Champion Strength aren't really they're not necessarily the greatest link set. She's just not really going to be able to kind of focus in on them. But yeah, she's on Pepe Gal's, Majin Buu Saga, Earthlings and Defenders of Justice, all categories that she's probably viable on. She doesn't maybe have the greatest linking partners, but overall she's just pretty solid on all of them. Interestingly enough, on a full Pepe Gal's team, after she fires off her super attack, her full defensive boost will be 332%. So, let us talk about Videl. So obviously we have Videl here, running her on the Pepe Gal's team. She can't unfortunately link with the Strength Videl, which is a little bit of a bummer. It's always a bit of a bummer when you get these units and they can't, have a perfect linking partner or anything like that. So yeah, it is pretty interesting, when they don't have these like perfect linking partners, but it's not the end of the world. She's still an incredibly solid unit, and she's not really gonna let anyone down overall. So for the most part, she's really good. And yeah, I just think she provides a lot of good utility. Debuffing is really fantastic. She also provides really strong healing ability. In terms of build, you definitely kind of want to build her into crit. When you have units that heal health based on damage dealt, you want to make sure that they crit, because critting will ignore the damage reduction of your opposition enemy, which means that they will actually deal more damage. It's not based on the attack stat. It's not 20% of a 1 million attack stat. It's actually 20% of the damage that attack stat will be performing on the unit. So you need to make sure that you have some kind of critting. That way they're going to be able to really tackle and handle increasing that amount of healing that they provide. If you do not have critting, it's not like they're not going to do any healing, but they will do substantially less than they would if they did crit. So that's probably the only necessary thing to kind of really keep in mind. Here's a pretty good scenario for Videl, really nice defense. We obviously have the 3 main links in Battlefield Diva, Cold Judgment, and Shattering the Limit all active, which is really good for Videl. And you can see she's looking really solid. Attack stat wise, it won't be that high. The main reason being is because of that healing. When you give units that heal like this, it's like B-Pan. If you were to give them the ability to right off the bat have incredible attack stats, they immediately are quite a problem to balance around, because they would be healing for so much right away from the beginning of the battle that it would almost just kind of completely negate the difficulty of the actual event itself. So that is something that they do just kind of have to work around. And it does make it a little bit challenging to balance, but it's not the absolute end of the world. So for the most part, she's looking pretty good. And yeah, I just think Videl looks really solid. I like the toolkit she brings. She brings a really good amount of utility, which I think is great. Yeah, she brings a lot of solid, like, team composition there. She can link really well with some of the Pepe Gals units. And I just think she provides a really good amount of debuffing. Now, debuffing is obviously a feature that's more useful in ESBR and SBR content. And I think that's definitely where Videl will lie. I don't think Videl is the kind of unit that's more focused on long form content. I don't think that's what you want to focus on with Videl. But that being said, you know, you can definitely get some pretty interesting results out of her. She's just definitely not going to be a main rotation unit, at least not at this point, just because I don't really see her having the best linking partners, and she doesn't do the best damage. Her healing can come in handy, and her debuffing lasts for 2 turns, so keeping her on the floating rotation is not the end of the world. Obviously it could be better, and you could obviously want to run her in the main rotation, but I just think there are better pairing options for most of her teams in the main rotation. I think she really suits a good floating role where she debuffs the enemy. She has the ability to activate her on super defense, which also really improves her defense as well. And I think that makes her viable not only for ESBR, SBR and short form content, but also makes her way more viable overall for the long form content, if I can put it that way. So I definitely think she does have, you know, a slot on most teams. I just think it's definitely as a floating unit, more so than, you know, as a main rotation unit. But it is entirely up to you guys. I mean, you can obviously think of her in different ways. Maybe she's one of your stronger units. Maybe you really need her. Maybe you really value her healing. There's plenty that you can decide on in terms of like what to focus on. But yeah, entirely up to you. But for me, I like Videl. I like where she's sitting. And I think the nice thing about her passive is that it kind of, at least the 80% on super defense kind of helps her out, because it means that, you know, she can realistically focus on being utilized, you know, as a floater on other teams. I mean, look here on the Defenders of Justice team, there is quite a large drop in her, you know, overall defensive number, like just because of the lack of Pepe Gals on the team. But it's not so much that she's completely unviable, considering that she's still going to be providing debuffing. She will still be applying like that attack lowering. She still has the ability to heal, and she also, you know, still can raise her defense quite substantially on super. But you can definitely see that there is a drop off. So for me, Videl is kind of catered to the Pepe Gals team a lot more than the other heroine EZAs, or at least more than some of them. Some of the units are really quite independent of the Pepe Gals team, whereas Videl is designed to really function to her best ability on the Pepe Gals team. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those kind of scenarios. I just think, you know, sometimes it's designed that way to just obviously aid them in team building. I think Videl definitely doesn't replace the strength Videl, and she was never planned to, but it is quite interesting how they made her so restrictive and yet maybe could have made her a bit better. I think, you know, if you're going to really lock her down to one team entirely, you could make her comically good on that team. You know, make her hit like 7 million attack stats and stuff like that, just because it would have been really fun to run her on that team alongside the other Videl. But at the same time, I don't think it's that big an issue. I think the minimum they could have done maybe is add a Pepe Gal's support function to her. I think that would have been really good. Because one, it would have really made like great value in keeping her in the floating slot to provide support to all the rotations. And also just overall, since she's tied to that category quite intrinsically, it means that there's extra value in keeping her on the Pepe Gal's team beyond activating her own passive. So it would have made her some really great synergy with that team. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I think Videl's really good. Her healing is incredibly powerful, especially when she's getting crits, which we're getting quite a lot of, even though I originally built her into additionals, because back in the day she hit so low that I was just basically applying her debuff. But yeah, she's definitely quite interesting, and I think Videl is a cool easy A to bring about. I think out of all of them, I would classify Videl probably as the weakest. I think overall Videl is maybe the most utility-based one. I actually don't think she's the weakest. Let me put it that way. I think offensively she's definitely the weakest out of all of them, even with her indefinitely raising attack. That really only comes in useful in long-form events, which the Pepe Gal's team's not really needed for at this point in time. Maybe in future they'll add a category challenge to the LVE or something, or the LGEGT or something for the Pepe Gal's team, and then you might find Videl being used quite heavily in that team. But I think Videl does probably have the second or tie most utility out of all of the heroine EZAs. If I just think about it logically, my unit can 4C super attacks below a certain health threshold, provides crit chance to Pepe Gal's units, and provides support to mono AGL units, Pepe Gal's units, and key to all allies, which is very, very good. Videl applies double debuffs on the enemy heals as well, so they're pretty close in terms of their, just overall, their overall performance. But yeah, it is definitely something a bit more interesting. So you can see there we got Videl up to a decent point in terms of her attack stat. But I definitely think you can see the difference between her on a Pepe Gal's team and her on something like Defenders of Justice. Now some teams you'll be able to proc a lot of the Pepe Gal's passive. Earthlings, you can have her, Belma, Launch, Videl, all who are really viable on Earthlings. So that is acceptable. It's just, you're not going to get the full passive unless you really go for the full passive. But overall, Videl looks pretty solid, and I think her EZA was good, if not the best EZA of all time, but I don't think any of these were ever designed to be the best EZA of all time. So let us take a look at those links. Overall, link-wise, I think she's one of the units that's going to struggle in ever getting all of her links. You could maybe activate all her links on an Earthlings-based team. If you throw in a Hercule at some point, you'll basically be able to activate her full links, because most Hercules have champion strength and money. So you could activate Battlefield Diva, Shattering the Limit, and Cold Judgment with this AGL Mai, who is probably her best running partner. And then you can activate money, and champion strength with a Hercule. Pretty much any Hercule. But probably the AGL Majin Buu Saga support Hercule. But you see, that's where it becomes a little bit difficult, because essentially you wouldn't be able to get the links the full time. And obviously Hercule would take up one of the slots away from the Pepe Girls. So you need to factor in taking away 20% attack and defense for Videl in relation to the links that you're giving her with champion strength, which is 5% damage reduction, 10% attack with courage, and 20% defense with money. Possibly maybe comes out worth it because the damage reduction and the additional key is okay, but she doesn't really need keys, so yeah, it is a little bit difficult. Obviously, she does fall under Hercule's support, so that is also possibly perfectly fine as well. But overall, Videl is pretty cool, and I think the usability of her links is good enough for her to be used on many teams. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. But otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.